25% are super tasty.
Can you get yourself to a better spot within your category?
By the way, I'm not saying don't eat your veggies.
Hole punch and some blue dye.
It is wonderful. Hot sauce, you'll go, woo, tongue out and blend and a bit boring. I use those old ring binders and suddenly went, superpowers.
Welcome to
Bean stuff.
Today on the podcast, we are in a little bit of a different location. And in fact, we're in two different locations. For those who are listening, I'm in my bedroom, office/bedroom. And Dad, you are in the kitchen, it looks like, in front of the world map there.
Yeah, that's right. In the dining room, actually.
I should mention it's a different kitchen. The kitchen and the bedroom that we're in are in different houses.
That's right, different towns.
Different towns, exactly. So it's not like we just don't want to see each other.
That's right.
But today on the podcast, Dad, I think we're talking about superpowers. Is that correct?
Superpowers, we are. Do you have a superpower or do you not have a superpower?
Exactly. And one of the things with coffee is, obviously a very important part of that as you start getting into the testing for quality and kind of, as we talked about on other podcasts, like Q grading and all these types of things. The ability to pull out flavors, the ability to identify taste within coffee becomes more and more important. Mm-hmm. And for someone who's not necessarily a super user, but who's not necessarily a coffee snob to the point where that's their job and they're doing, grading and that kind of stuff, it's still kind of an interesting thing to know because there are people among us that may not even work in coffee that are super tasters. Mm-hmm. Their superpower is tasting.
That's right.
So I guess what makes this important in your day-to-day work, Dad?
My day-to-day work, because I'm dealing with coffee, which is tasted, we are always looking for, when we look for new coffee or coffee we already have, when I taste the coffee, I'm looking for sweet, I'm looking for salty, I'm looking for bitter, sour, umami. It's sort of the 5 basic tastes. And from that, then we go to a wheel that takes all those 5 basic tastes and sort of makes them more specific so that I can differentiate them and say, this coffee tastes like this. And I can put all those fancy words on a packet, say, oh, this has got a chocolate truffle.
Well, and I know that in another earlier podcast episode, we did an episode on the tasting wheel, and it's a good point you bring up as well because like you said, being able to differentiate between all these different flavors really helps when you're categorizing coffee, or if you're looking for a coffee to put into a blend and you want it to bring in a certain flavor, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. Speaking of coffee, what kind of coffee are you drinking at the moment?
I'm actually drinking, because it is whatever time it is at night here after 7. I'm drinking a decaf. It's called Decaf Morning Glory, which is a wonderful blend of 12 plus more different countries of coffee.
Wow.
The COVID hit and they wanted to. They found they weren't selling as much coffee and they didn't want it to go stale, so they put a lot of the decafs together and they came up with this blend and. Voila, it is wonderful. In fact, they're going to carry on doing it now because everyone enjoys it so much.
Wow, and I'm drinking some of the Guatemala Via Vista that you gave me out of the Ember mug that you gave me. No, we're not sponsored by Ember, but I would highly recommend it. Anyway, back to the show.
I'm using the old Frank one, mate, that you gave me many years ago.
There you go. So what can we do to start identifying if we are, a super taster or something different to that?
25% are super tasters. We're just going to say 25%. And you're highly sensitive to taste. Doesn't mean actually it's wonderful. It just means you're highly sensitive. And
does that mean that you could potentially taste too much, almost like things could be too sensitive type of thing?
Correct. Yeah. Spicy, you'll taste way over the top. Hot sauce, you'll go, woo, this is way too much stuff going on, and particularly the bitterness part of it. So really quick side note. Do you remember the time we went to we were in like a hot sauce shop or something like that, and I dipped a thing into some hot sauce, and the guy came from behind the counter and said, no, you can't have that. So I gave it to you, and it was incredibly hot. Anyway, sorry, back to the. So you got 25% that are super 4 times
tasters.
as hot for a super taster
right.
to a normal taster.
But
Yeah,
so you got 25% who are
yep,
very highly sensitive towards like flavor and
flavor.
taste.
They're actually very much to the smell, particularly as well. So you're very
Mm,
sensitive to those sort of things. And you may be known as a picky eater. You may, grew up sort of thinking like, why don't you want your broccoli and your grapefruit and all that sort of thing? Uh,
yeah.
it could be because you're a super taster and it is way over the top. And if they could taste that and say, I can see why you don't want to eat your broccoli. By the way, I'm not saying
Yeah.
don't eat your veggies. I'm just saying you'll notice it.
So what's the next category? Is there
So,
another
yeah,
category
you're
down
right.
below
If you
that?
go over here, there's the 25%. Then there's a
Hmm.
large group in the middle, basically, which are 50%, let's say, of the population. And I would
Yeah.
call those tasters. So super tasters, you've got tasters, and then you've got, it doesn't sound so good, the non-tasters, which to
Right.
them food, without even realizing it, so that's not a problem, is bland and a bit boring, and you've got to eat it, so they eat it.
Right.
Um, and that's another 25% over here. If you're in that middle section, you can be a boring blend taster at
Mm.
26%, but just through practice, you can go all the way up close to a super taster.
Well, and
And
that's the one question I was going to have is can you through practice and training can you get yourself to a better spot within your category?
oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. You can certainly move up, and you say through practice, through cupping, through tasting, through doing a tasting wheel, tasting coffee other people.
Yeah.
There's many ways you can, just by what you eat, the food, and stopping, slowing down, and thinking about what am I tasting.
One way to see if you're a super taster from just I guess a physical standpoint is to actually well, I'll let you describe it because I don't know if I 100%. I don't want to lay out the wrong steps here, but there's a way you can physically, and it involves a
Oh,
hole punch and some blue dyes, right?
food dye. You
Food
don't
dye,
use this.
yes. Don't, yeah, we also don't condone putting dye in your mouth.
Oh, mate. I was testing one of our staff yesterday, and fortunately it was blue
Yeah.
dye, but I couldn't get it out of a dropping bottle, so I
Oh,
really
no.
pushed hard and hard and hard, and it suddenly went woof. So we spent the next hour cleaning that up. Anyway,
Yes.
so yes, so physically is correct. You're really going to just actually physically count the papillae, these fungiform papillae in your mouth, on your tongue. So you're
Uh-huh.
going to physically count that, and rather than trying to count your whole mouth, tongue out and count everything, you're going to just get a hole punch, which is about
Uh-huh.
6 millimeters in diameter. You
Uh-huh.
punch on a bit of paper, put that bit of paper. If you've got, I use those old ring binders. But they may not have ring binders anymore, but they
Yeah.
ring binder reinforcers, and they're perfect size. Put them
Uh-huh.
on your tongue. Sorry, getting a little excited. First of all, put the food dye just a little bit on your tongue.
Uh-huh. And the
Get some
food dye
more.
helps that papillae helps to make it easier to count because they'll kind of have like a pinkish hue to them,
Yeah,
whereas
they
the
will
rest
be
of your
sort of
tongue will be blue.
higher up, and the blue will be all blue suddenly, and you'll see these
Gotcha.
pink papillae. Take a glass of water, spit it out just to dilute the whole thing. Then put the
Uh-huh.
little ring on your tongue.
Uh-huh.
You could get a magnifying glass with a bright light at it, or what I do is just take my phone and take a
Uh-huh.
close-up picture. Make sure,
Yeah.
because you're doing so magnified, make sure you're not shaking like I was and it gets all blurry. You just count how many of those little
Hmm.
sort of pinkish protrusions you can see, the papillae. And here's the
Yeah.
thing: if you count 30 or more in that little hole,
Yeah.
you're a super taster.
Okay.
If you count 15 to 30 approximately, you're a taster.
And
If you've
that's
got,
that range that you were talking about where you can kind of you can train up to a
yes,
certain point. And then, sorry, the next category
oh,
down.
and less than 15, then you're a non-taster. So you're in that sort of that food's not such a not important, but as exciting or
Yeah.
as annoying as it's to other people.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. And then the method that we're going to go through today, does this have a name, or is this is another way to also test if you're a
Does it have a name? A
super taster?
super taster kit set. Usually, I got my original one from Amazon, which is PTC, which is a chemical name. But I noticed in Amazon now they come with now 4 of these little things here, these little
Yeah,
tubes,
little
and each of
vials.
vials, and each of these vials, if I open up one, has a little
Hmm.
bit of, looks like litmus paper, I call it, and the hardest part is just getting one little bit litmus paper
Right.
there out. And So here's this one. This is a control. So in other words, this one it's just paper. It's got nothing. It does
It's
nothing.
got nothing added to it, essentially.
And I'm going to ask you in a minute, Reed, to do this for me. And it's just put this on your tongue in the middle, about 5 seconds.
And this is the control one that you're using at the moment?
At the moment, I am, yeah.
Yeah, and so this should taste like as if you're, I guess, as we commonly do, as if you're eating paper.
Exactly. If you like paper, you'll love it. If it's boring, it's probably good, actually.
And you've got vials. I've got these wonderful Ziploc bags that you provided me with. So we're going to actually go through this process and kind of identify what it looks like, or, kind of walk through the process. I haven't done this in a while. I know you've done this recently, but we're going to walk through it together, kind of see and explain what it looks like to go through this process. And at the end, see if we got any superpowers or super tasters here.
Exactly. I mean, I've done a form even because it's good to do it 4 times in different orders and just to check that you're getting all this correct. Yesterday, and I did it 4 times with my roaster, and he got it 100% each time. Every time we changed it around, he didn't change his mind. He was honest, and he found out he was a superhero, a super taster, or a super.
There we go. Wow. So I'm going to start with number 1, round 1. Is that correct?
You are. And just be honest. It takes about 5 seconds. Put it on the center of your tongue. Don't gag yourself. Don't put it too far back.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put it in.
Yep.
Okay, I've got it.
Just stop. Don't need to say anything. Okay. Okay, take it out now. I'm going to write it.
I'm not going to lie. It tastes a little bit like if I was licking battery acid.
Whoa. So quite an intense.
Well, okay. I would say like watered down battery acid. It wasn't like, but it was definitely, there was a zing to it.
A zing. I like that word.
I can even taste it like on my tongue after I swallow. So.
Right. Okay. That's good.
A little bit of zing there.
A little bit of zing. Now, I'm not saying what that means just yet, but if you could take number 2 now.
Here we go. Oh, no.
What's that?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. What?
Round 2.
Yeah.
I don't taste anything.
Nothing. Oh, mate.
Maybe a tiny bit of sweet. Honestly, it just tastes like paper. Nothing. I feel like if there's a paper one, that's the
that would be it. No problem. I'll reveal this in a moment.
I'm a little bit nervous because now I'm thinking, oh no.
It's all right, mate. It's a genetic thing, so you may have got some from your father. I don't know. You may have got some from your mother.
I'm going now to number 3, baggie number 3.
Baggie number 3. Yep.
All right, here we go.
Okay. Just hold it there. Oh, it doesn't look good.
Oh, that's very bitter.
Bitter. Was it more bitter than that first one?
Yes.
More bitter. Okay, I'm going to add that in there.
Perfect.
Good.
All right, now to round number 4.
Number 4. You're on to number 4. Yep. Put it in.
Ooh. Initially a lot sweeter.
Definitely not like the first battery acid one and the intense one.
Of all of them, minus the one that I assume was paper, is the most pleasant.
Okay.
Okay, I'm putting it back in the bag. Not that I'm going to use those again.
No, I wouldn't use them again.
They're there.
Get them
what are the results? What do I have?
Well,
I'm nervous.
Yeah, I can see why you're nervous. Yeah. Just to let you know, this is a genetic thing, and I did your mother the other day, and she came out as a super taster.
Well, I've got the gene pool going.
You got the gene pool. You did. I've done myself a few times now, and I'm a super taster. I did your sister too. She was a super taster.
Well, I hope
feeling
I'm
pressure now.
Yeah, no pressure.
And what I can see on here straight away is that you are a super taster.
Wow. So by identifying which ones you can taste and kind of what you taste within that, whether that's bitter, whether that's sweet, that type of thing, is kind of that process of understanding whether or not you are a super taster.
Yeah. If you couldn't get any of those, you'd just be in that 50% or less. Actually, you're just a normal taster. But because you tasted all 4, you tasted all 3 plus the paper, you were able to distinguish. That put you up in what they call a dominant super taster. Doesn't that sound good, mate?
Well,
you could add that too. Yeah, you could add that.
I'll put that on the resume.
That's all right, mate. It's all right.
Okay, so if you couldn't taste any of them, you'd be in the lower 50%, which could put you in a normal taster or a non-taster. Is that correct?
Possibly a non-taster, I'm thinking, because I'm going to say a non-taster at 25%, because even if you just got a little bit at some of those other ones, that would have brought you into the 50%. They can taste some of those things, but because you were up in that, you tasted all of them. That meant you were more in that super taster. And if I did the other test with the ring binder with the little,
that would be another way to kind of further identify.
We could count the next time you hear it.
What we can do for anybody listening or anybody watching, we can put a link to the sheet that you've created there, Dad, and then we can also put a link to where you can purchase this. So if you want to do this test for yourself, or test it on other people.
Quickly, they all look exactly the same. This is the PTC test paper.
Now, what does PTC stand for on that test? Like, what's the chemical that they're putting in there?
Phenylthiourea is what it's specifically known. They just call it PTC. It's phenylthiourea.
Yeah.
Then the second one is just the test paper, which is just nothing. Then the next one is not phenylthiourea. It's just thiourea. It's the one that you usually taste a little more intensely, and you did actually on yours. You said bitter, and this is more than that first one.
Yeah.
And the last one is another one called sodium benzate, and that's often, as it says, you'll read it on the bottle. It's either bitter, sweet. It can vary. It can be salty to some, or tasteless even to some.
Interesting.
If it's tasteless, that means you're not able to taste that one. That would bring you down to a recessive super taster. It all depends which ones you taste, of where you put yourself on that, what genes you are using there.
Well, for anyone who ends up trying this, purchasing this, or maybe has done it in the past, we'd be curious to know how it went for you. Thank you again for listening to the podcast. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.